Hello everyone, Mia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. And perhaps maybe you are new here or newer here. There were quite a few people that subscribed after the Mars in Scorpio video. So what I do here is basically go over the astrology of the week ahead. So I'm gonna give you an overview of the transits, themes to look out for. It's really more an overview, so I keep these shorter. It's not a deep dive. And this week we're going to look at the astrology of the week ahead from September 29th till October 5th of 2025. And the themes of this week are really, there is an emphasis on Mercury. Mercury is kind of doing a lot this week, okay? There are multiple aspects, so that it's a shifting tone of the dialogue, of perspective, and of mental focus. There's also a bit of a quarter moon tension that we have pretty much at the beginning of the week, which is kind of building towards the energy of the full moon next week that we're going to have, which is an Aries full moon. And then there is also, Mercury is going to oppose Chiron. Venus is going to be at the south node. So the focus is on like the relational axis kind of, there's a lot of patterns about like relating, probably old stories that are creeping up. And also, every time that something comes up, there's always the opportunity for us to also release it. So I feel like this week, this is the emphasis. And we're going to start off with Monday, which is today, the 29th of September. Moon entered Capricorn today, which is a more grounded, realistic force, maybe a bit more emotional, sober at the end. But I do think the beginning of this week feels a lot more structured and duty oriented. And then on Tuesday, that moon in Capricorn is forming that first quarter moon, which is kind of the midpoint between the new moon and the full moon. And so there is probably basically things that happen around the last new moon. But the last new moon was an eclipse in Virgo. Let's not forget that. So that was pretty powerful. And I feel like a lot of you are still experiencing somewhat of an eclipse hang up or hangover, which by the way is completely fine. There have been a lot of people that have wrote me and told me about digestive issues. And I do think that is very poignant for this Mercury-ruled new moon that we just had. First of all, because Mercury moons in general have a bit of a harder time. They're digesting a lot mentally, but it's very hard to get in the physical bodies. Mercury-ruled moons are Gemini moons and Virgo moons. And I don't mean that just in a natal aspect. Usually when there's eclipse, it's obviously affecting a lot of people globally. But you could also go so far as to say that people that have this placement natally, ding, 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 Gemini moon incoming here as well. It's easier for them to think their emotions instead of actually feel them, instead of actually being in the body and processing them, which then in turn can lead to digestive issues, because if we go on it from a literal level, the question becomes, what are you not really digesting? Think about that. What are you not really digesting so that your body is showing you symptoms of stomach aches, stomach pains, or just any other sort of digestive issues? It really depends what you're kind of going through. There's lots of things that you can do. I always feel like the eclipse wind down window usually lasts for about 2 weeks, but I would even give it up to a month until everything is settled. And I personally really like to use this time and encourage other people to use this time to really then actually do the cleansing. Eclipse season, for the most part, very intense. We're in the midst of the realm of fate and fortune, and it's very hard to have any sort of control there. Now we're kind of outside of the eye of the storm, and now things are beginning to wane again. And it's do the rituals now. Don't do the rituals mid-eclipse season, do the rituals now. Take the salt baths, do the necessary saging, do any sort of altars that you want to light a candle, whatever suits you, right? And if we go onto like the physical level, I highly encourage doing some somatic exercises, somatic re-regulation. This weekend, I was at this wild women gathering, which was so much about reconnecting to our own bodies and with other people, in this case, with other women. And I left feeling so much more connected. And it makes sense. In my case, this Virgo eclipse happened in my 11th house. So it was all about community and friendships and the people I have around me and these dynamics. That doesn't mean it has to be that for you, but I just encourage you to do any sort of somatic exercises. If you are genuinely having some problems with your digestion, I would even recommend fasting for a day just because it can kind of reset your body. But when you fast, do it seriously. Like, don't just fast with the food, like also don't go on your phone. Like, do like a real type of cleanse and fast to fully like reset your body and nervous system, because that's probably actually going to help. Also, if you are fasting, the things that are hard to digest have a bigger probability of coming up, so you got to be ready to actually face it. So I don't suggest fasting on a work day. That's probably not the best thing that you should do, but maybe fasting on your day off or on the weekends, and then really taking that time to actually process these emotions when they are coming up. And hot lemon water with a pinch of salt, amazing thing to drink upon waking up. It really helps a lot. There are also a few yoga exercises that I can't show right now on camera, but that also really help, that have helped me a couple of times, from waking up with cramps to genuinely them disappearing in a matter of 30 minutes or something like that. Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe I should do a reel about it. I don't know. Let me know if you want me to do a reel about it. But yes, just really wanted to mention that because, again, a lot of people are experiencing the eclipse hang up. It's completely fine and normal. Everything is okay with you. But yes, around Tuesday, again, we are getting this first quarter moon in Capricorn. So this is the first like echo of that new moon that we had in the sign of Virgo. And it's really kind of testing ground, where it's testing us, like, are we going to take the responsibilities that we set ourselves up for? Are we, gonna be able to test the structures and see if we're willing to do the Capricornian climb, so to say, or not? Like, what is the cost of going so far? On Wednesday, the moon moves into the sign of Aquarius, and we also have the exact Mercury in Libra square to Jupiter in Cancer. Both of them together, there is an emphasis on overstretching, overpromising versus like actually being practical about the care that you can give. Libra Mercury is always pretty relationally focused on other people, and Cancer usually also as well. Both of these signs tend to be focused more on the other versus on themselves. Almost in a way where it feels like they can regulate themselves better when they know that other people are okay. And so when they come together in this square, in this tension, there is a lot of room for negotiation. The contracts you made, clarity around certain issues about, did we even express our true wants and needs, or what was not expressed that can now come to the surface? What is the actual truth of somebody? If you are confused, confusion is always a telltale sign that you're not like fully in your truth. And easier said than done. Okay, easier said than done. I think the first thing that you can do, if that is coming up on Wednesday, if you're confused, even just admitting that you are confused goes a long, long, long way. Maybe when it comes to relationships, you can just admit that you are confused right now. And then see what else comes up. What else comes up when you just allow yourself to be truthful and honest about what you're feeling. And it's completely okay to not have it all figured out. And then you can slowly, there's gonna happen this bridge between perspectives of other people and what you really want to need and what other people truly want and need. And then it can foster better connection. Ultimately, I think this transit is amazing to foster deeper and better connection to people close to you, honestly. But there is almost a bit of like that Libra Mercury quality of bringing justice. and Mercury in Libra often likes to bring justice in the sense of like arguing, like hearing everyone's POV, hearing everyone's perspective and what everybody has to say. I feel like this transit is very like self-help group, like from an archetypal level where like everybody can express what they want, what they need. And the point of it is to actually build some sort of community that can help itself. It becomes like an ecosystem. So that's kind of what's going on Wednesday. Yes, what else do we have? Oh, yeah, sorry, I almost forgot that. Moon in Aquarius also immediately forms a sextile to Neptune in Aries. I usually don't talk so much about the minor transits the moon is doing just because the moon is moving so fast, but I think that this one is significant just because it's happening pretty much at the exact same time that we have the Mercury and the Jupiter square. So this brings, again, ideal vision to the forefront, and like, what is the collective dream that I also wish for the group? And for myself, like, what do I need to thrive? And what does the village, so to say, need to thrive? So I do think it's a very good day to negotiate things. For sure. Renegotiate contracts and renegotiate what is actually true. On Thursday, we don't have any major transits, so it's a quieter day, but I say it like that because there's always things happening. Of course, it's like you could take Thursday as more like an integration there, but there's always other transits building up in the background. When it comes to astrology, on Friday, we then have Mercury in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries. That again, when Mercury opposes Chiron, there's hurtful words that can come up. There's conversations that are triggering that can come up. There's a negotiation between, again, also wants and needs, to be completely honest. Lots of mirroring dynamics that can happen that can be very uncomfortable. Chiron has been in Aries for a while, and Chiron in Aries has collectively and individually been bringing up wounds around independence and like the lone warrior archetype, and really triggering us to rethink, is this what I really want and need in life? I'm probably seeing that like, no, it's a lot of life, and what makes life worth living is actually the connections that I have with other people, the witness that I have. What does anything in life even truly mean if there's no one witnessing anything that I'm achieving or going through? And I feel like this dynamic, once again, kind of just pops off around Friday, where we're just really questioning again, what is that? What is that urge in us? And also just the healing quality. You know, of course, Chiron, especially Mercury opposing Chiron, can bring words that are sharp as knives. Can even sometimes with Libra be like, oh, I want to say something that is truthful and like that's going to bring justice, but not realizing like how much is just like impacting the other person. And then in turn, this can just really make us rethink the dynamics, you know, of who essentially it's gonna be different for everyone. Sorry, I'm like stuttering here a bit because it will depend on how this is falling in your chart, and sometimes you're gonna be the Mercury in Libra person, and sometimes you're gonna be the Chiron in Aries person. sometimes you're maybe going to be the villain, and sometimes maybe you're going to be the hero for somebody. And we don't really get to choose what roles we play in people's lives. Sometimes we are just mirrors in whatever way, and other people's are that in our lives and in our stories. And again, at the same time, if these triggers come up, there's also this healing quality that can arise through them. Because actually, it can foster deeper connections if something is revealed, and sorry, I'm stuttering how to phrase this. I'm so sorry, guys. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that words can be hurtful. A lot of us are conflict avoidant. Mercury in Libra certainly can be a bit conflict avoidant, a bit passive aggressive even. But what conflict can reveal is actually the depth of a relationship. And conflict can be so healing. Because once you express your truth, it can actually foster deeper connection. And I do think this is kind of what is popping off on Friday. Again, as you can see, Mercury is doing a lot. On Saturday, we have the moon moving into Pisces, softer energy, a bit more reflective, weekend mood we are having here. Big day Saturday, because Venus officially conjoins the South Node in Virgo. And this is building up the whole week. Also definitely going back to that eclipse we had in the sign of Virgo. The South Node, I don't look at it in a modern astrological way, as in like the South Node is what you have to move away from and the North Node is what you have to go towards to. For me, I look at it from an ancient Hellenistic perspective, first and foremost, and definitely also a bit from like the Vedic perspective of Rahu and Ketu. But, so I do look at the South Node symbolizing decrease. And so when Venus is going over that South Node, there is basically a decrease in the qualities of Venus and Virgo, which can actually even be good since Venus and Virgo isn't really in the best position. Venus and Virgo is in its fall. So all these tendencies that have to do with like perfectionism and nitpicking, like over controlling and not feeling okay if something doesn't fully go your way, this can actually kind of be almost kind of released in a way. There's like we have an easier time letting go of that and often even spiritualizing that experience. Okay, the South Node is Ketu, and that part of the dragon, the tail of the dragon, often has to do with moving away from the material world and like kind of basically detaching ourselves from that part to spiritualize our experiences more. So I do think that this is definitely something that can happen. And we're totally gonna look at like what are our outdated patterns, around love, around values, and all of that again is emphasized with Mercury doing so much. Why? Because, well, Mercury rules Virgo. So this conjunction is basically kind of closing all of that off, what this whole week is already putting us through. And basically also probably detaching us from certain values or again perfectionistic tendencies and finding more peace in maybe being okay to not strive for that, or seeing that the universe, that the cosmos is already in its perfect order, and maybe even having an easier time to let go of just control. So I do think that's going to be interesting. And at the same time, well, we also have to be careful when it's a South Node. Of course, the nodes can always go too far in either direction, and sometimes we can tend to release too much, and we go to the full extreme of, now, I'm sick and tired of relationships, and now I want to be single, and I'm gonna go and become a nun or a monk and live in a cave and detach myself from everything and everyone. And while that's certainly okay, oftentimes when this wish arises from a place of wanting to do that from out of frustration, not out of pure love, it's not the right intention, because it's coming from a place of hurt and resentment and frustration. So we just have to be a bit careful here of not going too far. And everything that's related to Venus, that's probably the day where I would be maybe don't get the tattoo at that time. Or maybe don't do that beauty treatment at that day, just because things could go a bit too far. Maybe you want to get Botox or you want to get some injections. It could just get a bit too far, and then instead of going well, it just it does the opposite. It almost goes too well, and then in turn it makes something that should have looked good look just a bit weird. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So that is my advice for Saturday, okay? Be a bit careful. Anything that has to do with relationships and body, and taking things a bit too far. Maybe you're also you're at a new diet regime, and you're eating super clean, but then it goes too far where you're having a panic attack because you're going out and something had I don't know, canola oil inside, and you're avoiding that. Sorry, I'm laughing because I was totally not that person at some time. So just beware of that, Easily, sometimes we can go to that part and we stop having fun in life. So that can also happen. And then on Sunday, luckily, we have no major aspects and transit. And that's great. That's great, because if we preview a bit the next week, on Monday, we have Mercury entering the sign of Scorpio, so the focus gets much more deeper. And on Tuesday, we have that full moon in the sign of Aries. It's going to be a powerful full moon, a powerful culminating point. Sorry, my cat's meowing here. Maybe you heard her. And it's going to be powerful because it is ruled by Mars, which is currently in Scorpio, in a very powerful position. And then later on in next week, we're going to have Venus opposing Saturn. And that's also going to be a big one, especially because, again, last one in this constellation of Venus and Virgo in its fall, opposing Saturn in Pisces in that way. But we're going to talk more about this next week. This is what I have for you guys. If you've liked this, I'm doing this every week. I've been staying pretty consistent with doing all of that. I'm gonna do a bit more Mercury related videos. I think it actually kind of fits this week, just because I also really want to promote the Meet the Planet series, because for me, that's the heart of astrology and why I do astrology. It's the planet, 100%. And if you haven't checked it out already, the Moon and the Mercury episode are released. They're always linked down in the description below. And they're really a good amount, they're 2 hours, okay? And we really talk about not just what the planets mean, but also how to build a relationship with the planets and through your chart and all of that. And I'm going to focus a bit more on Mercury. We're going to talk about the phases of Mercury. Basically, Mercury can often be in 3 phases in your chart. Not always. Sometimes Mercury is also not in any of these phases, but Mercury is always going to be either in the same sign as your sun or one sign before, one sign after. And so that's why, because Mercury is always close to the sun, oftentimes Mercury is either going to be in under the beams position, in a combust position, or maybe even in a Cazimi position. And that's what we're also going to take a look at. And probably some combinations, again, because you heard me say before, Mercury can only ever be in the same sign as your sun or one sign before or one sign after. So I think I'm going to do a mini series on going through all of these combinations. I know it's a lot, but I do think it's actually going to be super useful for you guys. So this is what I have here. It's worthy following me on Instagram. Post a lot of things there, and I sincerely appreciate it. And yeah, otherwise, we're going to see each other latest next week. So I'm sending you guys much love. Goodbye.